Good morning everyone. My name is Dr. Syed Afnan and today we will be discussing about the strategies to crack Band 9, which is for the speaking module, and this is the part 1. So we will be discussing about the top 5 IELTS speaking tip. Number 1. Do a 24-hour English warm-up. By this, what I mean is it takes around 10 to 15 minutes for the student to warm up and perform to their best ability on the test day. Just like an athlete needs to warm up before the sporting event, you also need to warm up before your IELTS exam. So just before entering the room, do rehearse a little. You can discuss about introducing yourself for any part 1 question. One more tip. On your test day, just before leaving your home, watch 1 to 2 Band 9 videos from YouTube. It is a great way to set the platform for you, making you calm your nerves and giving you a splash of vocabulary. Point number 2. Give full answers. Saying yes or no are not satisfactory enough. You need to showcase your English in front of the examiner. If you give a very short or a limited answer, there is no way for the examiner to know how good you are. Therefore, you should always try to extend your answers with good explanations and examples. Point number 3. Correct your mistakes. People make small mistakes when they speak all the time, especially when you are nervous about an exam. Correcting your mistakes as you make them can show the examiner that you really do know your grammar and vocabulary. When you make small mistakes, say sorry and repeat the sentence correctly. But don't overdo this. Keep it to the modest, otherwise, there will be deduction in your marks. Point number 4. Ask the examiner questions if you don't understand. Your IELTS speaking test is meant to be like a normal conversation between two people. Therefore, if you don't understand a word, you can ask the examiner to explain what it means. Just say, I'm sorry, could you explain what X means? Believe me, examiner would really understand and acknowledge this and would tell you what the word means. You can also ask them to repeat the question. There is no negative marking for it. However, you can't ask the examiner to explain the whole sentence. You can always plot your answer while adding exclamatory remarks like, it's a good question. Let me see. Or you can say, I haven't thought about it before, but now as you say, these exclamatory remarks would really give the impression that you are quite aware of the question being asked and would sound like a good impression, but please don't overdo it. Point number 5. Speak some English every day. It is better to practice a little bit every day and improve your skills gradually than to speak your native language all week until you have an IELTS class. On the same time, you can join a WhatsApp group, find good speaking partners, ask the moderators to conduct your test one on one, rectify your mistakes and capitalize on them. You can also join my speaking group. The link to WhatsApp group is shared in the description. A lot of candidates have benefit from this group and I would urge you to do the same. Now, let's just discuss about the speaking part 1. For the speaking part 1, the examiner will ask you a familiar question. These everyday questions are about your life. This will last around 4 to 5 minutes. The question can range from your jobs or your studies, your family, your home, your hometown, or your hobbies. Before the part 1 begins, 4 things will happen. The examiner would introduce themselves and ask you your name. You can simply say, my name's dash. Make sure that you use the contraction names rather than name is. This will remind you to use contractions thereafter, like wheat, they'll in the rest of your test. The examiner will ask you, what can I call you? You can simply say, you can call me dash. If you have an English name, it is fine to use it, but make sure that you pronounce it correctly. If you can't say your own name properly, it does not create the best first impression. If unsure, just use your normal name. Then the examiner will ask you where you are from. Simply state I am from dash. There is no need for you to give extra information at this time. The examiner will finally ask you about your identification. Show it to them and then the test will begin. Create a good first impression. If you smile and you look friendly and you maintain a good eye contact, that will not give you a higher marks, but it will make you confident enough to have an impact on your answers. If you look at the floor and you give the impression that you would rather see anywhere around the world rather than the eye of the examiner, your tone would be short and monotone, and this will lower your score. However, if you are open, friendly with the examiner, you are more likely to sound natural, and that will automatically boost your score. Pretend you are interested in the question. If you listen to someone answer a boring question, you will notice one thing. Their voice is monotone. That is, it does not go up or down in pitch at all. It sounds very flat. If you speak like this, you will get a lower mark for your pronunciation because one of the crucial factors you will be tested upon is the intonation. And I guess you can easily relate when a native English speaker talks. His voice falls and rises depending on how they feel about what they are saying. If you pretend that you are interested in what the examiner is asking, your intonation should become more varied. Extend your answers. There's no set amount of words or sentences that you should use in part 1. They shouldn't be too short because you want to show the examiner that you can actually use English. Part 1 should be of 2 to 3 sentences max. You will have lots of opportunities to have long answers in part 2 and part 3. The best thing about speaking is practicing naturally. It is a very bad idea to prepare memorize answers before your speaking tests because part 1 is very predictable. You should practice the familiar topics mentioned above in number 1. Memorizing the answers from handouts like Makar notes or any other notes is just like locking your mind to the answers and making your brain fixed to a certain answer. That won't get you a higher band. Try recording yourself and then listen back and think about the following. Could you improve your vocabulary? Did you make any grammatical mistakes that could be fixed? Did you speak fluently enough or did you speak at an unnatural speed? How was your intonation? That is the rise and low of your voice. Did you extend your answers enough? Did you speak clearly? Try and keep practicing until you are really confident about the topics which are given in part 1. As I pointed earlier, don't ever give yes or no as an answer. You must remember that you are in a test and you have to showcase your English in front of the examiner. Giving yes or no answers does not allow the examiner to judge you and you will get a low marks no matter how good and well versed you are with English. Don't ever go off the topic. Some students try to tell their whole life story or the entire history of their hometown when the examiner just simply asks their name and asks where they are from. Remember that these are very simple questions and you have to give probably 1 to 2 or maximum 3 sentences if the examiner allows, and you probably don't give the irrelevant details. Don't give no as an answer. If you don't understand one word in a question, it is acceptable to ask the examiner what that word means. It is also acceptable to ask the examiner to repeat the question if you don't quite understand what they have said. If you really have no idea, be honest with the examiner and tell them you don't really know the answer and have a guess. It is not an examination of your knowledge, it is a test of your English. So it is perfectly acceptable to make something up if you are really stuck. Don't speak very quietly. This is one of the most annoying things for the examiner because no matter how good your English is, if they can't hear you, they can't give you a higher score. This has to do a lot with your confidence and shyness. Make sure that you're not talking to the floor and speak a little louder than normally. The examiner will also be recording the test, so it has to be loud enough for the recording device to pick up your voice. Try recording yourself and play it back. If you can't hear yourself clearly, then you need to increase the volume of your voice a little bit more. Don't be a perfectionist. The examiner knows that you are speaking in a non native language and does not expect perfection. If you are constantly thinking about the perfect grammar and vocabulary, it will reduce your fluency and pronunciation. Fluency and pronunciation make up to 50% of your marks. So there is no point in trying to use perfect grammar and vocabulary. Speak as naturally as possible, with a focus on speaking at a natural speed and a clear pronunciation, and the grammar and vocabulary will look after itself. That's all about the part 1. The next video you will be seeing is about part 2, which is the cue card, and part 3. So that will be all for today. All the links are given at the description. Do like and subscribe my channel and stay tuned for the part 2 of this video.